clinician. I'm still a clinician. I still call myself a clinician. I still see clients, not as much as I'd like to. I'm a de facto entrepreneur. I worked for an agency that did great clinical work. We went into people's homes. We did it on purpose, too. And we went into the homes of people who were disadvantaged, who've been abused, neglected, kids who had been prostituted and horribly maltreated, and adults with serious and persistent mental illness, substance abuse. And we did great clinical work and loved the work we did. And we worked for an agency that had some administrative problems, like we knew it had problems because like our paychecks would be no good. Well, sometimes they'd be good and other times they wouldn't be so good. And we'd get paid and we'd get checks and we'd run to the bank the check was drawn on and get cash. I remember being in line and sort of triaging who really needs to get paid this week. And someone say, well, I got a mortgage now, go ahead, front of the line. So we decided, let's do this ourselves so we could at least do this well. And looked around and said, well, how could we start this? Because we'd have to pay payroll every 2 weeks. And so I took a second mortgage on my home and finally tipped off my probably 5th pay period on MasterCard. And that was about it. And if I had needed to make a 6th pay period, I wouldn't have made it. But by the 6th week, revenue started to come in. We built primarily Medicaid. So Medicaid, finally, the check for Medicaid came. I said, oh, thank you. People had been agreed to not cash their check this week, just in case. So I got to be an entrepreneur just because it sort of had to be done. What I believe is that we're constantly presented with challenges, with a mission, with a task that's ours. And if we take that task on, I think we become entrepreneurs. The good part about that is I don't believe any task will be put in front of you that you're not capable of addressing, and that the resources will be found. And in my experience, that's largely true. I think to be a successful entrepreneur, you really have to have a heart for it. You have to have an unshakable sense of purpose. And that sense of mission is really what drives the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are not out to make money or create empires. They're out for purpose. Bill Gates is an entrepreneur, and he was totally interested in people having computers in their own room. Prior to Bill Gates, computer was 3 buildings over. This was IBM and Digital Equipment Corporation, and nobody had their own little computer. You had to go down to the computer room. I remember being at Florida State and going down with my deck of cards and giving these cards to the guy at the window and the computer, and it was huge, and mysterious things happened. Bill Gates wanted that to be different, wanted everyone to be able to use their own computer. That's what drove him, and that's why he's the most wealthy man in America. So it has to start with a mission, and there are perhaps lots of things that you have a mission for and a passion for, and what your focus has to be within that passion. Not to say that it has to be your highest passion. Sometimes you'll have wonderful passions for things that other people don't much care about, frankly. I still have passions for things that I think I've been called to do that nobody else seems to care about. I want to reduce truancy in schools. Nobody cares about truancy in schools. The schools sure don't. I guess they just assume these kids didn't show up. The only people I've gotten any interest in truancy from schools is downtown merchants that don't want these kids hanging around. I'm passionate about teen fathers taking responsibility and being fathers, and nobody else seems to have much interest in that at all. People that I think should, like correctional facilities and juvenile justice. They got bigger things to do. So there's a lot of things that you can be passionate about, but there's nobody else that passionate about. Move on, get passionate about something else. There are a lot of people who have been very passionate about things that other people weren't passionate about, And I would tell you their names, but nobody remembers them. So the other thing is you need smarts. You need to have an understanding. I am so grateful for the good background I got in counseling and in working with clients that has been able to inform me in developing the agency. But it's also, you have to be smart about being able to manage details and develop systems and processes that can be replicated. Entrepreneurs get something and it's like a cookie cutter. Once we got it, we boom, 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 stamp it out. And I started one small little mental health center and thought, oh, this will be good. This is all I can manage. And 25 years later, we have 23 of them in 3 states. In order to scale things up, you have to have processes and you have to be willing to have systems of accountability. You have to really understand and value reliability and replicability. Is that
Yeah.
okay? So when I talk about smarts, it's not really about IQ. It's a little bit about what Goldman called emotional IQ, but it has to do with having a combination of book smarts, street smarts, people smarts, and creative smarts. A third thing you need as an entrepreneur is guts. You have to have the ability to take action when things go wrong. There were a lot of people, there were 12 of us that worked at this mental health center, and I was the one that was willing to mortgage my house, go into debt, and you have to have the guts to do it. In order to make something work, you have to scale it, and when you scale it, it gets bigger. You have to be willing to tough it out. Don't confuse guts with thrill-seeking, because it's not the same thing. And if you're successful, you have to have the guts to change, because they say success is the enemy of change. As long as you're really successful at something, you're going to be less likely to change it. And in order to adapt to new market opportunities, you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to change. The last thing you need is luck. I do believe that I have had great fortune and blessing, but I think I mean more than luck in the traditional sense of it, that we have to take the opportunities that are provided for us. An example, Zoe Timms is a woman who runs a program that's called Women's Educational Project. And she had a friend who was in business. She had her friend introduce her to her friend, and she talked to him about women's education in India. And at the end of the conversation, he decided to go out and meet the board. He did meet the board, he did his due diligence, and then gave them $500,000. People said, wow, she was so lucky. Well, the reality is she met about 4 or 5 people like that a week. Not all of them paid off. She kept at it. Luck was there, but she took the opportunity to pursue that. She had then taken this guy and had him introduce her to some of his business associates, and she is working that network for all it's worth, and they are delivering on educational promise to women in India, which is, I think, the world's biggest problem. She stuck at it. She kept at it and wouldn't be dissuaded. The underlying traits of luck are humility. In order to take the opportunities that luck gives us, you have to have enough sense of humility that it gives you the capacity to explore, to think that you don't know it all, so that when things come along, then there are opportunities. We talked about early work history. One of my early work histories is I worked at a factory, and I was the college kid that worked at the factory. There were a bunch of us who worked at a factory, and did the summer rush and filled into vacations, and they went on strike. So I thought, I'm not part of the union. I'm not on strike. I'm going to work. So I went to work, and there was the pickup line, and I was saying hello to my friends, and then I started to proceed through, and they said, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm not part of the union. And they said, well, you can't get on. I said, well, yeah, I'm supposed to work today, and I need the money for tuition. And they said, well, you can't go. And I said, but I'm a college student. I'm in college. Thinking that status really protected me. Well, they beat the snot out of me. What a good experience that would have been. It gave me a sense of humility. It gave me the sense that, yeah, I'm a college student, but these guys are supporting their wives, their families. This is their life. This job is the job they're going to retire from. And they take this really seriously, and I didn't. And that gave me a sense of humility. And that's hugely important when it comes to luck, because you have to know that, this doesn't revolve around you. You have to have an intellectual curiosity is an important part of luck, and incredible optimism. Without optimism, luck just seems like a challenge, but with optimism, luck is a great opportunity.